The twins' sneakers scuffed the gravel. Their small hands clasped tight as the world blurred past. Abandoned by the roadside, they stood frozen, watching Grandma's old pickup vanish into the Tennessee dusk. 7 years old. Alone. With only each other and a note pinned to Lily's backpack. Someone better will find you. The air was thick with the scent of pine and gasoline. The kind of summer evening that promised fireflies but delivered dread. Lily, her pigtails fraying, squeezed her brother Leo's hand. Her voice barely a whisper. She's coming back. Right. Leo, wide-eyed but silent, didn't answer. He didn't know how to tell her that Grandma's face, twisted with something like shame, had looked final. Across the road, a man stepped out from the shadow of a sycamore tree. Ethan Caldwell, 34, had been walking this stretch of Highway 41, his boots heavy with the weight of a life he'd tried to outrun. His flannel shirt was dusty, his beard unkempt, but his eyes sharp, hazel, and searching locked onto the twins. He'd seen the truck peel away, seen the kids left like forgotten luggage, and something in his chest cracked open. He wasn't supposed to be here. Not in this town. Not after what happened 10 years ago. But fate didn't care about his plans. Hey, Ethan called softly, crossing the road with cautious steps. The twins flinched, stepping back. He stopped, hands raised, palms open. I'm not gonna hurt you. You okay? His voice was low, steady, the kind that could calm a storm. Lily clutched the note tighter, her eyes darting to Leo, who stood like a shield in front of her. We're fine, Leo said, his voice small but defiant. He was trying to be brave, but his trembling hands betrayed him. Ethan noticed. He noticed everything: the way Lily's backpack sagged, the way Leo's sneakers were untied, the way their faces mirrored someone he'd loved and lost. I'm Ethan, he said, kneeling to their level. You got names. He didn't push, didn't crowd. He knew what it was like to be scared, to feel like the world had turned its back. Lily hesitated, then whispered, I'm Lily. This is Leo. Ethan nodded, his heart thudding. Those names. He'd heard them before, in a life he'd been forced to leave behind. 10 years ago, Ethan had been someone else, a man in love, a man with dreams. He and Michael had built a life in Nashville, a fragile but beautiful thing, until Michael's mother, Evelyn, tore it apart. She'd called Ethan a sinner, a danger, and worse. When Michael died in a car crash, Evelyn blamed Ethan, her grief twisted into venom. She'd made sure Ethan lost everything: his home, his community, even the twins Michael had been raising with his late sister. Ethan had never known the twins' father, only that Michael had been their guardian after their mother's death. Evelyn had taken them, and Ethan, broken and banished, had disappeared. Now, staring at Lily and Leo, Ethan felt the past clawing its way back. The twins didn't know him, didn't know the man who'd once tucked them in at night, who'd sung them lullabies when Michael was too tired. But Ethan knew them, and he knew Evelyn's cruelty hadn't changed. Where's your grandma? Ethan asked, his voice gentle but urgent. Lily's lip trembled. She said we're too much trouble. Said someone else would want us. Leo's jaw tightened, but he didn't speak. Ethan's stomach churned. Evelyn hadn't just abandoned them, she discarded them like trash. Look, Ethan said, glancing down the empty road. It's getting dark. I've got a place nearby. Just a cabin. You can stay there. Get some food. Figure this out. I promise you're safe with me. He didn't know why he said it. Why he felt this pull to protect them. Maybe it was their eyes. So much like Michael's. Maybe it was the guilt that had haunted him for a decade. Lily looked at Leo. Their silent twin language passing between them. Finally, Leo nodded. Okay, he said, barely audible. Ethan stood, offering a hand. They didn't take it, but they followed, their small figures trailing him into the twilight. The cabin was a mile off the highway, a modest place Ethan had rented after years of drifting. It smelled of cedar and coffee, with a sagging couch and a kitchen table covered in sketches. Ethan's attempt to rebuild his life as an artist. He made the twins peanut butter sandwiches, watching as they ate in silence, their eyes darting around like they expected the walls to close in. You live here alone? Lily asked, her voice curious but guarded. Ethan nodded. Yeah. Just me and my thoughts. He didn't mention the nights he spent staring at old photos of Michael, or the letters he'd written but never sent. He didn't tell them he'd been running from their grandmother's judgment, from a town that had turned on him for loving a man. As the twins ate, Ethan unfolded the note from Lily's backpack. Evelyn's handwriting was sharp, unforgiving. They're better off without me. Find them a good home. No signature. No apology. Ethan's blood boiled. He'd known Evelyn was cold. But this, leaving her own grandchildren on a highway. He wanted to confront her, to demand answers. But he knew she'd never listen. Not to him. Not to the gay stranger she'd vilified. The twins fell asleep on the couch, curled together like puzzle pieces. Ethan sat across from them, his mind racing. He didn't know how to be a father. Didn't know if he could be. But as he watched them breathe, their faces soft in sleep, he felt something shift. He wasn't just a stranger passing by. He was tied to them, to Michael, to a life he'd been forced to abandon. And he wasn't going to let Evelyn win again. Outside, the crickets sang, and the night pressed against the windows. Ethan didn't sleep. He couldn't. Tomorrow, he'd have to decide to take the twins to the authorities, or fight for them himself. Either way, he knew one thing. He wasn't letting them go. Morning light spilled through the cabin's windows, painting the twins' sleeping faces in soft gold. Ethan hadn't moved from his chair, his eyes heavy but his mind sharper than ever. The weight of last night's discovery pressed on him. Lily and Leo weren't just lost kids. They were Michael's kids. And somehow, that made them his too. He brewed coffee, the bitter scent grounding him as he wrestled with what came next. The twins stirred, Lily blinking awake first. Where are we? She mumbled, her voice thick with sleep. Leo sat up, his eyes scanning the room before landing on Ethan. You didn't leave, he said, more observation than question. Ethan's heart twisted. Told you I wouldn't, he replied, sliding 2 plates of toast across the table. They ate quietly, but Ethan could feel their questions hanging in the air. He wasn't ready to tell them everything, not about Michael, not about the life he'd lost. Instead, he asked, You know why your grandma left you out there? Lily's face fell, and Leo's hands balled into fists. She said we're bad. Lily whispered. Said we make her tired. Leo's jaw tightened. She's always mad. Ever since Mom died. Ethan leaned forward, keeping his voice steady. You're not bad. Nobody gets to decide that but you. He wanted to say more, to tell them they were enough. But the words caught in his throat. He wasn't sure he believed them himself, not yet. The cabin's phone rang, a shrill sound that made the twins jump. Ethan hesitated, then answered. It was Sheriff Danvers. A gruff voice from Ethan's past. Heard you picked up some kids by Highway 41. Danvers said. No preamble. Ethan's grip tightened on the receiver. Yeah. They're safe with me. Danvers grunted. Evelyn's been calling, saying she made a mistake. Wants him back. You know her. Ethan. She's got influence. Ethan's blood ran cold. Evelyn. Regretful. More likely she was covering her tracks. They're not going back to her, he said, sharper than intended. Danvers sighed. Look, I know your history with her, but she's their legal guardian. Bring M to the station by noon, or this gets messy. The line went dead. Ethan turned to the twins, who were watching him like hawks. Who was that? Leo asked, his voice edged with suspicion. Ethan forced a smile. Just someone checking on you. We're going to take a little trip today? Okay. He didn't mention the sheriff. Didn't mention Evelyn. He needed time to think. The drive to town was quiet. The twins in the back seat of Ethan's beat-up Jeep. Their backpacks clutched like lifelines. The Tennessee hills rolled by, green and endless. But Ethan's mind was elsewhere. He remembered Evelyn's face the day she'd kicked him out of Michael's funeral. Her voice dripping with venom. You're not family. You never were. He'd believed her then. Let her words carve him hollow. But now, with Lily and Leo in his care, he wasn't so sure. At the sheriff's station, Danvers was waiting, his badge glinting under fluorescent lights. Ethan, he said, nodding curtly. Kids, come with me. Lily clung to Ethan's sleeve, her eyes wide. We want to stay with you, she said, her voice breaking. Leo stood rigid, but his eyes screamed the same. Ethan knelt, meeting their gaze. I'm not going anywhere, he promised, though he wasn't sure he could keep it. Danvers led them to a back room, where a social worker, Ms. Carter, waited with a clipboard and a tired smile. We're trying to reach their grandmother, she said, her tone professional but kind. She's claiming it was a misunderstanding. Ethan's jaw clenched. Misunderstanding. She left them on a highway. Ms. Carter's smile faltered. We're looking into it. For now, they'll stay in temporary care unless a family member steps forward. Ethan's heart pounded. He wasn't a family member, not legally. But he couldn't let them go back to Evelyn. Not after what she'd done. What if I want to keep them? He asked, his voice low. Ms. Carter raised an eyebrow. You'd need to prove a connection. And, no offense, Ethan, but your history here doesn't help. She didn't need to elaborate. Ethan knew what the town thought of him, the gay artist who'd corrupted Michael, the man who'd fled after the funeral. He'd spent years rebuilding himself. But in this small Tennessee town, rumors were as good as truth. As the twins were led to a waiting area, Ethan caught sight of Evelyn through a window. She stood outside, her silver hair pulled tight, her face a mask of righteous indignation. She didn't see him, but her presence felt like a noose tightening. He slipped out a side door, needing air, needing a plan. He didn't have money, didn't have a lawyer, but he had something Evelyn didn't love for those kids, and a promise to Michael he'd never kept. Back at the cabin that night, Ethan dug through an old box, pulling out a photo of him and Michael, laughing in a Nashville bar. Tucked behind it was a letter Michael had written before he died. If anything happens to me, Ethan, take care of them. You're their father too. Ethan's hands shook. He'd never shown anyone that letter, never believed he deserved to. But now, with Lily and Leo's faces burned into his mind, he knew he had to fight. Ethan spent the night drafting a letter to a lawyer he couldn't afford, the words spilling out like a confession. Michael's letter lay beside him, its edges worn from years of quiet grief. By dawn, he'd made a decision. He'd fight for the twins, no matter the cost. He drove back to the sheriff's station, the photo and Michael's letter tucked into his jacket. The twins were still there, sitting in a sterile room with Ms. Carter. Lily's eyes lit up when she saw Ethan, but Leo's were guarded, like he'd learned not to hope. You came back, Lily said, her voice small but bright. Ethan nodded, ruffling her hair. Told you I would. Ms. Carter looked skeptical when Ethan handed her the letter. This is compelling, she said, scanning Michael's words. But it's not legal proof. You'd need documentation. A will. Something. Ethan's heart sank, but he didn't back down. Then tell me what I need to do. I'm not letting them go back to her. Outside, Evelyn was waiting, her arms crossed, her face a storm of self-righteousness. You. She spat when she saw Ethan. You have no right to those children. Ethan met her gaze, his voice steady. And you had no right to abandon them. Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her influence in this town spoke for her. The day stretched into a blur of meetings and paperwork. Ms. Carter explained the process. Ethan would need to file for guardianship, prove he could provide a stable home, and face a court hearing. Evelyn, as the twins' legal guardian, had the upper hand, but her actions on the highway had raised red flags. We're investigating her, Ms. Carter said quietly, but it'll take time. Ethan spent the afternoon with the twins, taking them to a diner to escape the station's cold walls. They ordered milkshakes, Lily giggling as she slurped hers too fast, Leo watching Ethan like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Why do you care so much? Leo asked suddenly, his voice sharp. Ethan froze, the question cutting deeper than he expected. Because you deserve someone who does, he said finally, his throat tight. Back at the station, Ethan overheard Evelyn talking to Danvers, her voice low and venomous. He's not fit to raise them. You know what he is. Danvers didn't respond, but Ethan felt the weight of her words. This town hadn't changed. Its judgment was a shadow he couldn't outrun. But for the twins, he'd try. That evening, Ethan drove them to a nearby park, letting them run off their energy on a rusty swing set. Lily laughed, her pigtails bouncing, while Leo pushed her higher, his guarded expression softening. Ethan watched, his mind racing. He needed proof, something to tie him to the twins legally. Michael's letter was a start, but it wasn't enough. He thought of their old apartment in Nashville, the one Evelyn had forced him out of. Maybe there was something there, a document, a photo, anything. The next morning, Ethan called an old friend, Sarah, who still lived in Nashville. She'd been Michael's confidant, the one person who'd stood by Ethan after the funeral. "I need your help," he told her, explaining everything. Sarah didn't hesitate. "I'll check the storage unit." Michael kept everything: photos, papers, you name it. Ethan's chest tightened with hope, but he didn't let himself feel it too deeply. Hope had burned him before. While Sarah searched, Ethan took the twins to the library, letting them pick out books to keep them distracted. Lily chose a story about dragons, Leo a book on space. As they read, Ethan's phone buzzed. Sarah found something, she said, her voice tense. A letter from Michael's sister, dated before she died. "It names you as the twins' guardian if anything happened to her or Michael. It's notarized." Ethan's breath caught. It wasn't a will, but it was close. "Can you bring it?" he asked. Sarah was already on her way. For the first time in years, Ethan felt like he had a chance not just to save the twins, but to reclaim the life he'd lost. But Evelyn wasn't done. That afternoon, she showed up at the station with a lawyer, a slick man in a suit who talked about family values and stability. Ethan watched from across the room, his hands clenched. The twins, sitting nearby, looked small and scared. Lily whispered, "Is she going to take us?" Ethan knelt beside her, his voice firm. "Not if I can help it." As the day ended, Sarah arrived, breathless, with the letter. Ethan read it, his eyes stinging. Michael's sister had trusted him, believed in him, even when Evelyn hadn't. It was a lifeline, but the fight was far from over. Evelyn's lawyer was already filing motions, and the court date loomed. Ethan looked at the twins, their faces full of trust he wasn't sure he deserved. He'd fight for them, not just for Michael, but for the family they could still be. The letter from Michael's sister was a fragile hope, its notarized seal a faint promise in a town that thrived on judgment. Ethan clutched it as he met with a pro bono lawyer, M.S. Delgado, who'd taken his case after Sarah's frantic calls. "This is good," Delgado said, her eyes scanning the document. "But Evelyn's got money and connections. We need more than sentiment." Ethan nodded, his jaw tight. He'd spent the morning with the twins, trying to keep their world steady while his own spun out of control. They'd played checkers at the cabin, Lily cheating shamelessly, Leo laughing for the first time in days. Ethan had watched them, memorizing their smiles, knowing every moment with them could be stolen. Delgado laid out the plan. They'd present the letter in court, argue Evelyn's neglect, and push for temporary custody while the investigation continued. "You'll need to prove you're stable," she said. "Job, home, character witnesses." Ethan's stomach twisted. His freelance art gigs barely paid the rent, and his reputation in this town was a ghost story. He drove to Nashville that afternoon, the twins in tow, to search Michael's old storage unit himself. The unit was a time capsule: boxes of photos, Michael's vinyl records, a quilt the twins' mother had made. Lily found a stuffed bear, its fur worn but familiar. "This was mine," she whispered, hugging it tight. Leo rifled through a box, pulling out a photo of Ethan and Michael, arms around each other, grinning. "Who's this?" he asked, pointing at Michael. Ethan's throat closed. "Someone I loved," he said simply. They found Maury Elise with both Ethan and Michael's names. A birthday card Ethan had made for the twins' first birthday. Even a journal where Michael had written about their life together. "Ethan's my family." One entry read, "He's the twins' family, no matter what Mom says." Ethan's hands shook as he read it. This was the proof Delgado needed, not just legal, but human. Back at the cabin, Ethan cooked spaghetti, the twins chattering about the bear and the photos. He listened, his heart heavy with the weight of what came next. The court date was in 3 days, and Evelyn's lawyer was already spinning a narrative. Ethan, the unstable drifter, versus Evelyn, the grieving grandmother. Ethan knew the town would eat it up, bigotry dressed as concern. That night, Sarah came over, her arms full of takeout and determination. "You're not alone in this," she said, squeezing Ethan's shoulder. She'd rallied old friends from Nashville, people who'd known Ethan and Michael as a couple, who could vouch for the life they'd built. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The next day, Ethan took the twins to a community center, signing them up for an art class to keep them busy. Lily painted a rainbow, Leo a rocket ship. Watching them, Ethan felt a flicker of Michael's presence, like a hand on his shoulder. He pulled Delgado aside during a break, handing her the journal and photos. "Will this be enough?" he asked. She flipped through the pages, her expression softening. "It's a story," she said, "and stories matter in court." But Evelyn was relentless. She'd gotten wind of Ethan's petition and showed up at the community center, her face a mask of false concern. "My babies," she cooed, reaching for the twins. Lily shrank back, clutching Ethan's hand. Leo stepped forward, his voice sharp. "You left us." Evelyn's smile faltered, but she recovered, turning to Ethan. "You're confusing them," she hissed. "They don't belong with you." Ethan didn't flinch. "They don't belong on the side of a road either." The words hung between them, heavy and true. Evelyn stormed off, but Ethan knew she'd be back, her lawyer armed with more lies. As the court date loomed, Ethan prepared the twins, explaining in simple terms. "Some people want you to stay with your grandma," he said, kneeling to their level. "But I'm fighting to keep you with me." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "You're nicer than her," she said. Leo nodded, his voice quiet. "You don't yell?" Ethan pulled them close, his heart breaking and mending at once. The night before the hearing, Ethan couldn't sleep. He sat on the cabin's porch, Michael's journal open in his lap. The stars above were bright, unyielding, like the love he'd carried all these years. He didn't know if he'd win, didn't know if he could be the father the twins needed. But he knew he'd fight for them, for Michael, for the family they'd almost been. The courtroom smelled of polished wood and stale coffee, a sterile stage for a battle that felt anything but. Ethan sat beside Delgado, his hands clasped to hide their shaking. Across the aisle, Evelyn sat ramrod straight, her lawyer whispering in her ear. The twins were in a back room with MS. Carter, spared from the spectacle for now. The judge, a gray-haired woman with sharp eyes, called the room to order. Delgado presented their case first, her voice steady as she laid out Evelyn's abandonment, the letter from Michael's sister, and Ethan's connection to the twins. She held up Michael's journal, reading aloud, "Ethan's my family. He's the twins' family." The words landed like a stone in still water, rippling through the room. Ethan's throat tightened, his eyes fixed on the judge's unreadable face. Evelyn's lawyer countered, painting Ethan as a drifter with no job, no roots, and a lifestyle unfit for children. He leaned hard on the word, letting it hang like a slur. Ethan felt the room's eyes on him, the old wounds reopening. But then Delgado called Sarah to the stand. Sarah spoke of Ethan's love for Michael, his care for the twins before Evelyn tore them away. He was their father in every way that mattered, she said, her voice breaking. Ethan looked down, fighting tears. The judge called a recess, and Ethan slipped out to see the twins. They were coloring in the back room, Lily's paper a mess of bright swirls, Leo's a precise sketch of a planet. "You okay?" Ethan asked, kneeling beside them. Lily nodded, but Leo's eyes were stormy. "What if she wins?" he asked. Ethan took his hand. "Then we keep fighting. I'm not giving up on you." Back in the courtroom, Evelyn took the stand. Her voice was smooth, practiced, as she claimed she'd only left the twins briefly to teach them a lesson. "I was overwhelmed," she said, dabbing her eyes. "But I love them." Ethan's stomach churned. She was good. The judge's expression didn't shift, but Ethan could feel the tide turning. Delgado cross-examined, her questions sharp. "You left two 7-year-olds on a highway with a note saying they'd be better off with strangers. Is that love?" Evelyn faltered, her face flushing. "I made a mistake," she stammered. Delgado pressed harder, holding up the note, its words damning in black ink. The room was silent, the weight of Evelyn's actions undeniable. As the day ended, the judge adjourned until morning, promising a ruling then. Ethan drove the twins back to the cabin, their silence heavier than ever. He made hot chocolate, trying to keep things normal. But Lily's question cut through the quiet. "Are you our dad?" she asked, her eyes wide. Ethan froze, the truth a knot in his chest. "I want to be," he said finally, his voice raw. Leo looked at him, searching. "Then why didn't you come sooner?" The question hit like a punch. Ethan knelt, meeting their eyes. "I was scared," he admitted. "Scared I wasn't enough. But I'm here now, and I'm not leaving." Lily hugged him, her small arms fierce. Leo hesitated, then joined, his guard crumbling. Ethan held them, his heart full and breaking. That night, Ethan called Sarah, who was staying at a motel nearby. "What if I lose them?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Sarah didn't sugarcoat it. "You've given them something Evelyn never will: honesty. That matters." Ethan hung up, staring at Michael's photo on the table. He didn't pray, hadn't in years. But he sent a silent plea to Michael: "Help me keep them safe." The next morning, the courtroom was packed: locals, reporters, even a few of Michael's old friends. The judge entered, her face still unreadable. She summarized the case, her words measured but heavy. "This is about the twins' best interests. she said. Not grudges. Not pasts. But their future. Ethan's heart pounded as she turned to him. Mr. Caldwell, you've shown dedication. But your circumstances are unstable. Ms. Thompson, your actions raise serious concerns about your fitness as a guardian. The room held its breath. The judge continued. I'm granting temporary custody to Mr. Caldwell, pending a full investigation into Ms. Thompson's actions. The twins will remain with him under social services supervision. Ethan exhaled, relief flooding him. Evelyn's face twisted, but she said nothing, her lawyer pulling her away. Outside, the twins ran to Ethan, Lily hugging his legs. Leo's smile tentative but real. We're staying with you, Lily asked. Ethan nodded, his eyes stinging. For now, he said, pulling them close. It wasn't over. Evelyn would fight, and the road ahead was steep. But for the first time, Ethan felt like he was home. The cabin felt different with the twins' laughter echoing through it. Their backpacks now a permanent fixture by the door. Ethan woke to the sound of Lily singing off-key, Leo shushing her as they tried to make pancakes. You're burning them, Leo hissed. But he was grinning. Ethan joined them, flipping a lopsided pancake, his heart lighter than it had been in years. Temporary custody was a victory, but it came with strings. Ms. Carter visited weekly, her clipboard a constant reminder that this wasn't permanent. Ethan needed a steady job, a better home, and a plan to prove he could be the twins' father not just in his heart, but on paper. He'd started selling his sketches online, the orders trickling in. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. The twins adjusted, their resilience a quiet miracle. Lily drew pictures for the fridge. Leo helped Ethan fix a leaky faucet, his small hand steady. But at night, when the cabin was quiet, Ethan saw their fear of Evelyn. Fear of being taken again. He read them stories. Michael's old quilt draped over them, and promised they'd stay together. He meant it, but doubt gnawed at him. Sarah became a regular, bringing groceries and stories of Michael that made the twins laugh and Ethan ache. One evening, she pulled him aside. Evelyn's not done, she warned. Her lawyer's digging into your past, every job you lost, every night you drank too much. Ethan's jaw tightened. He'd stumbled after Michael's death, but he'd clawed his way back. Let them dig, he said. I'm not that man anymore. School started, and Ethan enrolled the twins, navigating parent-teacher meetings with a mix of pride and panic. Lily thrived, her chatter filling the classroom. Leo was quieter, his eyes always searching for Ethan at pickup. One day, a teacher pulled Ethan aside. Leo's been asking about his dad, she said gently. He says you knew him. Ethan nodded, his throat tight. He hadn't told them everything, hadn't found the words to explain Michael, their love, their loss. That night, Ethan sat them down, Michael's photo between them. This is Michael, he said, his voice steady but soft. He helped raise you when you were little. He loved you so much. Lily traced Michael's face, her eyes wide. Why'd he leave? She asked. Ethan took a breath. He didn't want to. There was an accident. But he asked me to take care of you. Leo's eyes met his, searching. Are you really our dad? Ethan's heart cracked. I'm trying to be, he said. If you'll let me. The twins didn't answer, but Lily curled against him, Leo's hand resting on his arm. It was enough for now. Ethan tucked them in, Michael's letter in his pocket like a talisman. He was building a life for them, piece by piece. But Evelyn's shadow loomed. A week later, Ms. Carter arrived with news. Evelyn's filed for custody again, she said, her face grim. She's claiming you're unfit. Ethan. Her lawyers got affidavits from locals people saying you're unstable. Dangerous. Ethan's blood boiled. He knew those locals. Their whispers rooted in prejudice, not truth. What do I do? He asked. Ms. Carter sighed. Keep showing up. Be the father they need. We're watching. Ethan threw himself into proving her right. He took the twins to a fall festival, their faces painted with pumpkins, their laughter a balm. He worked late, sketching portraits for extra cash, his hands stained with charcoal. He even started attending a local church not for faith, but for community, to show the town he wasn't the villain Evelyn painted. But Evelyn was relentless. She sent letters to the twins, promising toys and trips, her words dripping with manipulation. Leo tore them up, but Lily kept one, reading it in secret. She says she's sorry, Lily whispered one night. Her eyes conflicted. Ethan knelt beside her. Sorry doesn't erase what she did, he said gently. But you get to feel what you feel. Lily nodded, tears falling, and Ethan held her, wishing he could shield her from the confusion. As winter crept in, Ethan prepared for the next hearing. Delgado was optimistic the investigation into Evelyn's actions was damning, and Ethan's progress was undeniable. But the town's bias was a hurdle, and Evelyn's money was a weapon. Ethan looked at the twins, asleep under Michael's quilt, and made a silent vow. He'd fight until he had nothing left, because they were his family, his home. Winter blanketed the cabin in quiet snow, but Ethan's world was anything but calm. The second hearing loomed, a make-or-break moment for the twins' future. He'd saved enough for a small apartment in town, a step up from the cabin, with room for Lily and Leo to have their own beds. It wasn't much, but it was proof he was building a life for them. Delgado had gathered more evidence, testimonies from the twins' teachers, a neighbor who'd seen Ethan's patience, even a pastor who'd warmed to him. But Evelyn's lawyer was ruthless, dredging up Ethan's pasta bar fight from his grieving days, a month he'd lived out of his car. They're painting you as a liability, Delgado warned. We need to show the court you're a father. Ethan spent every moment with the twins, weaving stability into their days. He helped Leo with math homework, taught Lily to braid her own hair. They baked cookies, the kitchen a mess of flour and laughter. But at night, Ethan pored over legal papers, his eyes burning. Evelyn's affidavits were vicious, calling him a moral risk, a coded attack on his identity. He wanted to scream, to confront her, but he channeled it into fighting smarter. One afternoon, Lily came home with a drawing-a family portrait with Ethan, Leo, and herself under a rainbow. This is us, she said, shy but proud. Ethan's heart swelled, but Leo's silence worried him. Later, Leo confessed, I keep thinking she'll take us back. I don't want to go. Ethan pulled him close. I'm doing everything I can, he promised. You're my home now. Sarah organized a fundraiser in Nashville. Old friends pitching in for Ethan's legal fees. The support stunned him, people he hadn't seen in years, standing up for the life he'd had with Michael. One donor, an old bandmate of Michael's, sent a video for the court, describing Ethan's devotion. He was Michael's rock. The man said, "He'll be the twins too." Ethan watched it, tears falling, and felt Michael's presence stronger than ever. The hearing arrived, the courtroom colder than the snow outside. Evelyn's lawyer went first, his voice slick as he listed Ethan's failures. Delgado countered, presenting the twins' school records, Ethan's art sales, the apartment lease. She called MS Carter, who testified to Ethan's bond with the twins. "They trust him," she said. "They're thriving." The twins were allowed to speak. A rare move. Lily went first, her voice small but clear. "Ethan makes us feel safe," she said. "Grandma didn't." Leo was next, his eyes fixed on Ethan. "He's our dad," he said simply. The room went quiet, the words carrying a weight no lawyer could match. Ethan's chest ached, pride and fear colliding. Evelyn's testimony was a performance, tears, apologies, promises to do better. But Delgado was ready, presenting photos of the twins' backpacks, abandoned by the road, and the note in Evelyn's handwriting. "This isn't a mistake," Delgado said. "It's neglect." The judge's face was stone, but her eyes lingered on the note. As the hearing ended, the judge called for a private meeting with the twins. Ethan waited, his stomach in knots, Delgado's hand steady on his shoulder. When the judge returned, her voice was firm. "I'm extending Mr. Caldwell's temporary custody," she said. "A final decision will come after a 6-month review. MS Thompson, you'll have supervised visits, pending the investigation." Evelyn's face crumpled, but Ethan felt no victory, only relief. Outside, the twins ran to him, their coats too big, their smiles fragile but real. "We're staying?" Leo asked. Ethan nodded, pulling them into a hug. "For now," he said, his voice thick. "And I'm fighting for forever." That night, they celebrated with pizza, the apartment filled with warmth. Lily hung her drawing on the wall. Leo helped Ethan unpack Michael's quilt. But Ethan knew the fight wasn't over. Evelyn's supervised visits were a wild card, and the town's whispers still stung. He looked at the twins, their faces bright with hope, and vowed to keep going for them. For Michael, for the family they were becoming. Spring brought new colors to the Tennessee hills, and with it, a fragile sense of home. Ethan's apartment was small but alive, Lily's drawings taped to the fridge, Leo's model rockets lining a shelf. The twins had settled into a rhythm, school and art classes filling their days, Ethan's steady presence anchoring their nights. But the 6-month review loomed, a final test of Ethan's claim to their future. He'd found a part-time job at a local gallery, his sketches selling faster than he'd expected. The extra income meant new shoes for the twins, a better couch, small proofs of stability. MS Carter's visits grew less formal, her smile warmer each time. "You're doing good, Ethan," she said one afternoon, watching Lily teach Leo to dance in the living room. Ethan nodded, But the fear never left. Evelyn was still out there. Her supervised visits a tightrope. Those visits were tense. Evelyn brought gifts. Her voice sugary. But the twins were guarded. Lily clung to Ethan's hand. Leo barely spoke. Once, Evelyn tried to hug them. But Leo stepped back. His eyes hard. "You left us," he said, echoing the words he'd carried for months. Evelyn's face fell. But Ethan saw no remorse, only calculation. She was playing a long game. Her lawyer prepping for the final hearing. Delgado was ready too. She'd built a case on Ethan's progress, the twins' happiness, and Evelyn's documented neglect. Sarah and Michael's friends sent letters, painting a picture of Ethan as a father, not a stranger. Even the pastor wrote, praising Ethan's commitment. But Evelyn's team was relentless, digging up old rumors, questioning Ethan's suitability with veiled bigotry. The town's bias lingered, a shadow Ethan couldn't shake. One night, Lily woke from a nightmare, crying for Ethan. "I dreamed she took us," she sobbed, clutching the stuffed bear from Michael's storage unit. Ethan held her, his voice soft. "Nobody's taking you," he said, stroking her hair. Leo joined them, silent but close. And Ethan felt the weight of their trust. He wasn't just fighting for custody, he was fighting for their hearts. The final hearing arrived. The courtroom packed with familiar faces. Delgado presented their case with fierce clarity. The twins' words from the last hearing echoing, "He's our dad." Evelyn's lawyer tried to spin her redemption. But the judge's eyes were sharp, her questions cutting. "Ms. Thompson," she said, "you've had months to prove your fitness. Why should I trust you now?" Evelyn stammered, her facade cracking. Ethan took the stand, his voice steady despite the nerves. "I love them," he said simply. "I've made mistakes, but I'm here for them. Every day. They're my family." He looked at the twins, sitting with Ms. Carter. Their eyes locked on him. Lily smiled. Leo nodded. And Ethan felt Michael's presence, steadying him. The judge's ruling came swiftly. "Permanent custody is granted to Mr. Caldwell," she said, her voice firm. "Ms. Thompson, your visitation rights are revoked until further review." The room erupted, Sarah cheering, Evelyn storming out, the twins running to Ethan. He dropped to his knees, pulling them close, tears streaming. "We're home," Lily whispered. Leo's arms tightened around him, his silence louder than words. That summer, Ethan took the twins to Nashville, to the park where he and Michael had dreamed of raising them. They flew kites, Lily's laughter carrying on the breeze, Leo's rocket kite soaring highest. Ethan watched, Michael's letter in his pocket, its words no longer a weight but a promise kept. He'd fought for them, against Evelyn, against the town, against his own doubts. And he'd won. Years later, at Lily's high school graduation, Ethan sat in the front row, Leo beside him, both beaming. Lily's valedictorian speech was about family, not the one you're born into, but the one you choose. She looked at Ethan, her eyes shining. "You found us," she said, her voice carrying to the crowd. "And you never let go." Ethan wiped his eyes, Leo's hand on his shoulder. The road had been long, paved with loss and love, but they'd walked it together. under the Tennessee sky. Ethan knew Michael was watching. Proud of the family they'd become not by blood, but by heart.